Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at Arreat's Face. Arreat's Face is a very iconic piece of Barbarian equipment. Now, Arreat's Face is one of those almost generically good items. And what I mean by that is that, well, it doesn't really matter what kind of Barbarian you run, it's just a very nice helmet. You can plop it on a melee barb, you can plop it on a singer barb, you can plop it on just about any character, and get good effect. But the thing is it the best in slot for that specific character? Now, that is a question you'll have to ask yourself later. And very similarly to, like Jalal's Mane, Herald of Zakarum, and even Titan's Revenge, it is a very, as I've said, just a very generically good item for the class. Recently, with the patch adding in the changes to the mercenaries, as well as giving us the Frenzy Barb, the Arreat's Face has seen a new set of uses on the Barbarian Mercenary to give the Barbarian Mercenary more damage, which is pretty cool. As well as more resistances, more strength, more dex. I mean, it's kind of a nuts helmet. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of the helmet. Let's talk about it and where you can find it. So right off the bat, you'll notice that it has 363 defense, and it is a Slayer's Guard. The Slayer's Guard is a Nightmare level item. It is an exceptional level item, and this means that this can be upgraded one time to the upper version. It has a defense of 363, which is actually pretty darn good. It does roll as low as 302, so keep that in mind. And that is because of the variable on the ED, which is between 150 to 200%. We also have a strength requirement of 118, which for most barbarians, quite honestly, is relatively nothing. If this was for like a necromancer or a sorceress or something, I would be like, yeah, that's a pretty high strength requirement, but not for a barbarian. Even at level 42, which is when you could put this on, 118 strength is probably par for the course when it comes to a barbarian, because usually you need very high strength requirements for your armors, your weapons, even your helmets and things like that, and even your boots sometimes, depending on what kind of boots you put on. As you can see, the Ogre Maul IK Maul is 225 strength, which is pretty ridiculous. It makes kind of 115 strength seem relatively harmless. So right off the bat, you'll notice it has +2 combat skills, which is very, very nice. So that means that you're going to get a bonus to, things like Berserk or Frenzy or Whirlwind, Bash, Concentrate, so forth and so on. So very, very nice for any Barbarian who's running combat skills. We also have +2 to all Barbarian skills, which means not only you're going to get plus combat skills, you're going to get 4 combat skills, and then you're going to get +2 to your passives and +2 to your cries, which is not bad at all. And as if that wasn't already good enough, you also get 30% fast rate recovery, which is a lot. 20% bonus to attack rating, which is very, very nice for any class that has attack rating issues. It has a variable lifesteal of 3 to 6%, which basically means that you can find this in a kind of a poor condition, especially as a melee character. Lifesteal is pretty important, and having a 6% is definitely very nice. In fact, I would probably, in my opinion, prioritize the lifesteal over the defense. For a barbarian, lifesteal is important to help keep you up. We also have a 20 strength and 20 dexterity bonus on this, which is absolutely amazing, which is going to help you put on those ridiculously high strength and dex armors and weapons, and it's definitely going to be a nice little boon. And then to top it all off, as if like a cherry on the cake, as if a cherry, I accidentally pressed the wrong button. As if a cherry on a cake, we have the +30 to all resistances, which is pretty darn sweet. And quite honestly, the 30 all res really helps out a ton to even out your builds. So you mean not only are you getting 30 all res, you also have to consider that it's also giving you more points into natural resistance. So it gives you +2 to all skills. So it's also giving you more resistances in the form of natural resistance. It's giving you more defense in the form of Iron Skin. It's giving you more run speed, more increased stamina, more damage on your weapon. I mean, just in general, plus the skills on a character that has amazing passives is a pretty big deal. In fact, I'm building a character like that right now. It's my Tankazon. Now, the Arreat's Face is such a generically good helmet that you can put it on just about any barbarian to good effect. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best helmet to put on that barbarian. No. But if you just didn't know exactly what you were going to put on your Barbarian at that particular time, and you wanted to just throw this on your Barbarian, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to be so terrible that, oh my god, I'm not wearing the best in slot piece of equipment, because it's a really freaking dang good helmet. And you can sort out what is your best in slot helmet later on. We also have the ethereal version, which has 543 defense, and unfortunately, you would have to Zod it to use it on your Barbarian. However, because of the rise in use of the Act 5 Barbarian mercenaries, this helmet has actually seen quite a resurgence in those situations. So you can now use the ethereal version on your Act 5 Barb Merc, and to good effect. As you can see, it has a slightly lower strength requirement of 118, and all in all, it's just an amazing helmet with very few variables at that. I mean, really, what you're looking at is if you find a 200% Arreat's face with plus 6% lifesteal, you've got a perfect one. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade these, and I want you to see what it would be like if you upgraded these to the highest version. To do that, you're going to need a diamond. You're going to need a Lemmy rune and a Co rune. So a Lemmy rune, a diamond, and a Co rune, and we're going to need 2 of those, of course, because we're going to be upgrading both. Now, this is going to bump up the strength requirement quite a bit, and I want you guys to know this before you ever get into this. Don't be just like, herder, let me upgrade my item, okay? The reason why I do the upgrading on here for you guys is because I want you to see what happens when you upgrade it. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Does the strength go too high? Does the level go too high? What are you actually gaining from the upgrade process? I want you guys to see it so that you can know whether or not it's worthwhile. So here we have a 363 Slayer Guard, Arreat's face, and it is 118 strength with level 42. Upon upgrade, it goes to the Arreat's Face Guardian Crown, 426 defense, 196 strength requirement, pretty high there, with a level requirement of 72. So as you can see, very high on the strength requirement once upgraded. So unless you're a high strength barb, I would probably avoid upgrading your Arreat's Face. Now, if you are a high strength barb, more power to you. I mean, technically, if you have 196 strength when you put this on, you get an extra 20, which is going to bump you up to what? 226, right? 296 to 206, no, 16, 216. So 216 strength, which will put you a little bit closer to something like, IK Maul or IK Armor, which is 232. And as you can see, a lot of the IK stuff has some pretty high strength requirements. So, I mean, maybe it's not so bad in light of how high strength you need for a lot of these crazy items that you have to put on. Now, the ethereal version is also pretty sweet and would definitely be great on a mercenary, especially upgraded, because I have actually checked if my barbarian mercenary had really high strength, actually. I was very impressed with his strength level at higher levels. He was capable of, honestly, you could probably even throw an IK soul cage on him because he was very close to 230 some odd strength, and with a little bit of equipment, he probably would have hit it. So I don't imagine that the 186 strength requirement on the Guardian's Crown is really going to be that big of a deal for him. So this is going to go from 543 defense, 108 strength, level 42, to 648 defense, 186 strength, and level 72. So not a bad little upgrade there for a mercenary, and not a bad upgrade if you are specifically a character who has high strength. Now, if you're not a character who has high strength, I would probably avoid doing this upgrade. Also keep in mind that you can socket your Arreat's Face with something, and you can make it even better. So if you need more resistances, you could throw in an rune. If you need a faster attack speed, you could throw in a 15% IAS jewel. You could also find a nice 15% IAS jewel with something else, like maybe 15% IAS with 40% ED, or maybe a 15% IAS with maybe like all res. There's a lot of different combinations that you can get when it comes to gems and jewels and all sorts of interesting things. I mean, you could even throw, like a burr rune in here for damage reduction if you wanted to make your character more tanky. And that's really what it comes down to, right? It comes down to, what specifically does your barbarian need? Let's take a look on Silo's Pen, and let's see where we could potentially find this bad boy. Because, you know, if you're a barbarian, you're probably going to want to get your hands on an Arreat's Face. You may even want to try and get your hands on a perfect Arreat's Face. But due to the level requirement on this, I'm going to pretend we have about 150% Magic Find. I feel like that's pretty decent for level 40. What is it? 42 was the unupgraded version. And I feel like that's a good starting point. Nikas, Arreat's Face. All right, so here we are over on Silo's Pen, and we've got our Arreat's Face chosen with our bosses and 150% Magic Find, and sort by probability. You know, ignore the quest flags because you can't really do those more than once, unless you're bugging them. So Bale and Nightmare, not really a good farming, but definitely the best probability. And Dariel and Hell, that's a little bit too far out of your way. Usually you're around 60, 65 by the time you get to Hell if you're solo self-found. I mean, you might be able to get there a little bit earlier if you've tweaked out your character, but that's another story. Throat's so dry. Mephisto and Hell also kind of a little bit too far out of your range. And I've noticed with a lot of these nightmare level items, the exceptional level items, you really can't get them at the correct level. And it's been that way as I've looked at most of these items. But it does look like Nightmare Mephisto and Nightmare Diablo might be halfway decent choices. Mainly because Nightmare Mephisto and Nightmare Diablo are low enough level that you could actually have a chance at, you know, killing them and not be like level 70 by the time you get your Arreat's Face. So Nightmare Diablo might be your best bet as far as bosses are concerned. I don't really see a lot of other good options. I mean, you could also do Nightmare Mephisto, but look at his drop chance. It's like 13,300, and Nightmare Diablo is 2,900. In that situation, you might as well just go with Nightmare Diablo, because it's probably going to be quicker, easier, and more rewarding. Let's take a look at Super Uniques also. And just because, let's actually limit this to Nightmare difficulty, because I'm not interested in the Hell drops. I'm interested in the Nightmare drops. I want to see the Nightmare drops. So we got Nightmare Pendle, 1 in 26,000. That's absolutely god-awful probability. Not a lot of good choices here in Nightmare. Most of them are in Act 5. As you can see, Eldritch, Stockfarron, Thresh Socket, Frozenstein, Pendle, those are all Act 5. Really, really, really poor chances in Nightmare. Let's take a look at Hell difficulty. Cow King in Hell, 1 in 6,968. It really does look like there are just no good low-level options to farm this item. I'm not seeing anything on this list which screams out at me, hey, this is a good option for, you know, a low-level character to get their hands on an early Arreat's Face. It doesn't seem like it's possible. Because it looks like the earliest you're really realistically going to be able to farm it is Diablo and Nightmare with a 1 in 2,900 chance. Everything else is just kind of out of reach for a little lowly level 42 Barbarian. And you're probably going to have some issues killing Diablo and Nightmare at level 42. You're going to be probably more around like 50 or 60 by the time you kill him. And let's consult my chart real quick, shall we? Bye. So level. Oh, that's the wrong chart. This is the chart right here. So Act 4 Nightmare, which is Diablo, so 53 to 62. So you're going to be pretty far out of your way. Level 42 is way back at like Act 1 Nightmare. So you're going to start Act 1 Nightmare. You're going to have basically no chance of getting your hands on an Arreat. You're going to have to push through Act 2, Act 3, and into Act 4. And maybe you'll have a small chance to get it from Mephisto when you kill him to get into Act 4. But not really a great chance. And then Diablo is going to be your main chance at getting your Arreat's Face early on. Kind of sad at the drops there for that. It's no wonder that normally when you play a Barbarian, you just never seem to get your hands on the Arreat's Face on level. So usually much later on in the game that you usually end up getting your Arreat's Face. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are talking about some dude's face that got ripped off and shoved onto an armor helmet. And as always, keep watching.